This is the Momentum Podcast.
By far, my favorite part of our events is hearing from our members. I love to listen to entrepreneurs who are in momentum, changing the world, and absolutely and totally willing to share exactly how they're doing it and will help anyone around them. If you listen to the first part of this panel, you already know that's exactly what we're hearing here is entrepreneurs who are ready to help anyone. That's just how our membership is. And on this second half of our member panel sharing how they're growing their businesses, I think you're going to get a ton of insight into the process, structure, and routine that really makes businesses grow.
I'm Alex Charfen, and this is the Momentum Podcast, made for empire builders, game changers, trailblazers, shot takers, record breakers, world makers, and creators of all kinds. Those among us who can't turn it off and don't know why anyone would want to. We challenge complacency, destroy apathy, and we are obsessed with creating momentum so we can roll over bureaucracy and make our greatest contribution. Sure, we pay attention to their rules, but only so that we can bend them, break them, then rewrite them around our own will. We don't accept our destiny, we define it. We don't understand defeat because you only lose if you stop, and we don't know how. While the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo, we are the minority, the few, who are willing to hallucinate there could be a better future. And instead of just daydreaming of what could be, we endure the vulnerability and exposure it takes to make it real. We are the evolutionary hunters, clearly the most important people in the world, because entrepreneurs are the only source of consistent, positive human evolution, and we always will be.
Lars, same questions for you. So I know you were in our programs way back in the real estate days, but now, especially with you transitioning out of Traction, what would you say are the things that maybe anybody we do have a bunch of people who come to us from EOS. So what would you recommend to them, or what would you just recommend in general to anybody who's on here that like to get started quickly and to get up and running quickly?
Yeah, one thing I really appreciate about the way you've laid out all of it, and you call it minimum effective dose.
Yeah.
Like it really is something that I haven't seen in any other program I've been a part of. So it just allows you to get into the content and learn a piece of it. And so I actually, every night when we signed up, every night I would just tell my wife, like, I'm gonna go work out. And I would just get on my Peloton tread and I would just like walk for like 2 hours, but I was just consuming your content. And she's like, you're working out for a long time. I'm like, I just want to, I got to get in shape. But it was honestly just an excuse to really get through as much of it as possible and just really process in my mind the differences between, because, being in Traction, like we were deep in Traction, implementer, $5,000, $5,500 a day, 5 times a year type expense. And so getting out of that mindset and really seeing, I wrote down, Traction ended at the 90-day. Honestly, and it's not good or bad or indifferent. It just ended. And then it was all on me and Stacy, like, okay, I guess we're going to lift these rocks for the next 90 days. And we'd be lifting these rocks in our businesses. And just seeing, like, as painful as the OTAs were the first time I left that meeting with Stacy, I had the biggest headache. We were like 4 hours into our first set of OTAs around our 90-day targets. And I'm like, what did we do before? I asked Stacy that, like, how did we get to the point where we're a multi-million-dollar business and we didn't have like real clear outcomes, like super transparent and like, this is who's accountable. And then the weekly commitment, like that meeting, the whole team is there, eyeball to eyeball. Like, this is what we agreed to do. I can't do it this week. Can you do this thing for me this week? And it's just a different, and then the daily huddles, Stacy and I each had real estate teams and we failed multiple times running daily huddles before. We think they're this, like, it never landed. And so we both had fear around that, and just to suspend disbelief and just start doing it. And, I have all my scripts and Stacy runs all of it. I don't know where they are right now, but it's right there. It's choreographed. And we are just going through the motions now. We're only on our like 3rd week of daily huddles and the team is already super engaged. Like, they can see the value of it. So, and then getting the whole team on the momentum planner, I think is really, really important. So we're all showing up to that daily huddle. We've already planned our day. And Stacy will say, did everybody do their, have they done their daily plan? And everyone will just, we'll either show or we'll say yes, or we'll admit that we haven't, or whatever the problem was. So it's just really just different. And when you said, I think it was on a podcast, you said a passenger in your own business. I like the sound of it. I didn't really believe it.
Nobody does.
and now you can really just see that this thing has a life of its own, and it's not this effort. Like every quarter was this monumental effort for me. And I remember a couple years ago, I just had a breakdown in my business, and we had just gone from 1.7 to 1.8 to 1.9. And on 1.9, we spent like 1.4 million of expenses. And I told the team, I'm like, I am just so over this. Like all this effort, all these meetings, like we're in California somewhere on a 2-day event.
Yeah.
And nothing is getting done. And we're not actually moving the business forward. And so, so it just, it feels like I can breathe again, knowing, even though we had to put the reps in, I'm breathing easier knowing that we're on the front end of something that's really going to give us whatever a similar word to traction is. Momentum,
baby. So Lars, real quick question. Have you seen any changes or shifts in the behavior or how your team shows up now that they're using the Momentum Planner?
Yeah. And well, when you first started asking that question, the first thing that came to our mind is one of our team members has experience with us in traction. And I can see her mind going to like traction tendencies, like taking a project that's just for her department, or not looking at the business as a business and the 5 core functions. Where does the business? So that just came to mind. Most of our team members did not have any kind of planning process or any way to, what we've seen is that they're showing up to their daily huddles ready to talk about where they're winning and what they're grateful for, and who's copying awesome. I mean, we're following the script, like to the script.
Yeah.
And so I think we had a lot of loyalty in our team. So, and Stacy did a good job of building that up, where they're willing to trust us. And in a short period of time, they're seeing, at first they were like, oh my gosh, that seems like you have 12, quarterly or 90-day targets. And we're just like, let's just get to work on them. Let's not judge if it's too much or too little. And we're knocking them out. We're only 2 months into that, and we've knocked most of them out already.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Julie just commented too. That's the thing I realized with implementing the daily planners. Most team members don't have a daily productivity system. We make assumptions like, oh, hey, they're good on their side. But, I learned this a long time ago when we implemented the Franklin Planner. We used to use the Franklin Day Planning System. The Momentum Planner was born from me using the Franklin for 14 years and realizing what a complete tactical loop that program keeps you in. That system, that it's incredible at doing the exact same thing every week, every day for months and years at a time. But there's no exit to that every day, everything. And so when we created the Momentum Planner, it was really, what can we use from the CEO level all the way through the business to create alignment and to create the same type of progress. So I appreciate the feedback, Lars. So Adi, same thing for you. I think that this is really an opportunity for a lot of people, because on this panel, you have the smallest team. It's just a 2-person team right now, but you've had massive results. That's why we asked you to be on this panel, because your results are like really intense. What would you recommend to someone who feels like, hey, I'm towards the beginning of the Billionaire Code. I'm just getting started here. What should they do first? What did you do to have the results you have?
So here's the thing. I think what you really spoke to that resonated with me so much the first time I heard you speak is, I'm really good at the things I'm good at, right? And I know that. It's been proven to me time and time again. That's easy for me. Put me in a room with somebody who's struggling and thinking of like killing themselves tomorrow, and I'll turn them around, and by the end of that day, they're excited about what the next week or month is going to look like. I kill there. But when for me, the process started with reading like a Russell Brunson book and thinking, oh, how am I going to go online? And I did like WordPress programming back in the day when I needed to do a blog, and I've done all this stuff. And so I did the same thing. I jumped into this place where I just learned how to do, like, okay, I signed up for ClickFunnels, started doing horribly designed, terrible pages. You said this at 2CCX, like the system was there to allow my revenue to grow far beyond what a private practice would be. So I took it to like 100 or 125 with nobody helping. But then I just kept trying to make it grow more and more and more just on my own back. And what I realized was I was starting to hate my own work. Like
Yeah.
I was good at it, but I just wanted to leave the business. I couldn't fathom being like, my wife was hating where I was going. Like nothing was good. And so I hired help because I don't know if you remember this, but one of the first things you said was, if you're asking the question of if you need an EA, then you already need an EA. So I went out, I was barely.
And then I said, and if you keep asking it, you are one.
Yeah, exactly. So I went out and you hadn't done all the training yet. So I didn't know how to hire, whatever, but I went and got help and I got a little bit of feeding of what that felt like. And then you did this 8-hour training and we started putting systems in place. And the first thing I felt was not more money. The first thing I felt was like, okay, I get to at least show up to my business and not hate what I do every day. It doesn't matter if I'm good at it. If I despise it, I'd rather go get a part-time job somewhere and just at least enjoy my life. And so that was the first thing. But what showed up after when the processes started being put in place was, I think we talked about it yesterday, but every time we had to figure out, well, how do I do this thing? We had to sit down, we had to put a process in place to go, okay, well, how does that happen? And it's a pain in the butt. And it would take me months. Like we have our accountability coach, which is essentially our customer service rep for our signups. It took me probably 3 months to come up with, okay, what's an onboarding call like? Like when somebody first signs up, because my people are struggling. Like when somebody first finds me, they're not trying to make more money. They're not looking to travel. They're not looking to like get better at selling real estate. They're at their last, like if this doesn't help them, they don't know where they're. Yeah. And so it needs to be a really sensitive call. And so I trained this person who's doing amazingly well now on this, like literally decision tree. Like if they say this, what do we say? And a script, something I never thought that I would do. But you told me, we were sitting one day and I said to you, well, these are the things I have to do. And one of the things was I have to do the group coaching and I have to do the one-on-one coaching. And I remember it was, I don't know, there were like 400 people at the 2 Comma Club X event or something like that. You looked at me, you're like, really? And I couldn't, we almost like fought about it. It was like a 5-minute discussion where I was like, no, I have to be the one that does the coaching. Nobody else can coach. That's why I started this company. And you looked at me and you kind of said like, well, cool, but then your business isn't going to grow. You're going to be the guy who does the coaching. And I fought with myself for, I don't know, a couple of weeks before I went, wow, I have to complete, it's not even about hiring people into the business. I have to change the concept of what my business is.
Yes.
Because if I'm going to be the guy in front of all the groups, I'm either going to go back to hating my business or I'm going to figure out how to train other people. And so we put in place our first training program for coaches. And it was, oh my God, it was held together with duct tape, man. It was insane. But I got my first 2 coaches out of it. They even paid for their own training. So I got my first 2 coaches and it allowed me for the first time to take like a 20% step back from coaching. And now we're iterating that again. And we're going to bring in 5 to 10 more people into coaching and kind of like slowly allow me to build the business I wanted instead of having a fancy pretend online private practice. So it's funny that you say that the growth has been incredible because what I came out of the morning session was is it builder? I think we're a builder, but like we just crossed into builder.
Yeah.
But I already found 2 or 3 things that we haven't put in place from the earlier systems. And I couldn't figure out why we're not having the growth that I expected us to have. And when you said, hey, you got to look to the left and what have you not completed? And not only for me, but my operator, there's some things that we need to put in place for her to have the opportunity to grow. Because I feel like when we nail a couple of these little things now, we'll very quickly move to the top of builder instead of just having etched through it. And I think that's why it feels to me like, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I hate online summits. I don't log into online summits, but I knew when this thing started, I'm like, there are very small incremental changes that I need to make in my business. And I don't know how to make them. It's what did you put in the process? I'm in conscious incompetence. And at least I know that I'm in conscious incompetence, right? At least I'm not in the first step, but I'm not a business operator. I've never been one. That's not where my power is. And so you, first of all, gave me the freedom to do that. And then secondly, what I noticed is that I put small pieces of the puzzle. I already got this amazing growth. And Deanna knows this. When I came on, I said, oh, I implemented everything based on that 8-hour training. I had no other training from you. And when we joined, I was like, oh wow, we did like 40% of the stuff. We barely even started touching it. So I'm really excited for what'll happen when we actually go back and start implementing each one of the pieces to the real extent that you get in this program instead of what I got before.
So there was a question about what was this 8-hour training. So here's what it was. Russell a few years ago asked me to be the coach for 2 Comma Club X for scaling and productivity. And so I did an 8-hour training that was the equivalent of the planning section of strategic direction. And that's it. It basically had from client-centric mission all the way down to weekly commitments. And that was basically the only thing. So when Adi says he did about 40%, it's about 40% of the base strategic direction call content. It's probably 5% of our actual platform content once you're in Grow and Scale, maybe 3% of the actual platform content. So I don't want to go too longer because we're already running over. These panels always run over, and it's because like they're my favorite, and I would rather listen to our members than listen to me. I want to give you guys like a question that we can close this on. Well, first I want to get a reaction from all 4 of you. So one of the things that I tell people all the time is you're not a unicorn. And we even had stickers made this time so that you can stick it on your forehead, and we'll make them backwards next time so you can see it in the mirror. And I'm like, I want it tattooed on the inside of my wrist. You're not a unicorn, because here's this belief we have as entrepreneurs. We're so different. We're so special. We're so unique that it's going to be really hard for us to get help where we really need it. And one of the things that we talk about in this program always is the day you think you're a unicorn is the day you stop growing. The day you think you're better than everybody else is the day you stop growing. The day you think you're the only one who can do it is the day you have created as much entrepreneurial constraint as you possibly can. So just open question to all 4 of you, anyone who wants to answer. What is something that you've given up since being in this program? What's something that you've delegated or given responsibility to somebody else that you just didn't think you would? And like what part of your unicornness have you given up since you got into the program?
Finances.
Let's hear it, Megan.
I never thought that I'd give up the control of the finances because it was always something managed by us. Yeah. And we just handed that off in the last 2 weeks. And it feels so liberating and free to let somebody who's classically trained to do that and to make decisions on budgets and to make decisions that I was doing because I was a leader or because I saw the vision. I never thought I'd hand that over. And now it's a huge time back.
Yeah. Is it just time, Megan?
It's also energy and emotion and the stress of the little things. When we look at the big picture, then it takes me out of that panic mode as well. And it reduces the noise. It reduces the amount of things that I'm nitpicking. Where did this money go? Why did we test out this new software when we've got this other one that does the same thing, right? And it allows the operations team to have a little bit more freedom and flexibility without me bearing down on them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's such a good, I love the finance handoff, because here's what a lot of entrepreneurs find with the finance handoff. Just in handing off finance, the tactical pain in the business goes down by about half, because it's that whole financial management process where you almost relive every decision you made 3 or 4 times. Is that fair, Megan?
For sure.
Awesome. All right. Who else? Who else has one out of the 3 that are left?
I would say just trusting Stacy with running the entire cadence.
Yeah.
Just getting really clear that this passenger in your business, and just hearing you talk about how like we think we're doing good in the business, and we think when we chime in, we think when we, take something and do it ourselves, we think we're doing good and we're helping, and we're not. Yeah. And just trusting our people more and more, and really just developing that relationship with Stacy, my operator, and just letting her run this thing. And that to me has been the biggest weight. Like I just carry, like financially I'm good, health, my physical health, I've got a great family. I just carry this heavy weight all the freaking time, no matter how much money I have in the bank, no matter how many vacations I take. And just in the last few months, I'm feeling that weight, even with COVID, a little bit just dissipating.
That's awesome.
And just knowing that now Stacy, well, now she has a lot on her plate. So the session with Haley was super powerful. Like, I didn't know she was on when it started. I'm like, you got to get on right now. So I think there's even power in that, because we've got someone in our business that is going to be able to be her right-hand person and sort of like my EA, that triangle that you guys talked about. So just the weight of her carrying the cadence, loving on the team, seeing where the blind spots are has been the biggest shift.
I love that, Lars. It's such a big deal. And what I heard, like, here's my, like, I always listen to what entrepreneurs are saying, and it translates into my language in my head. Cause here's what I heard is that there's this massive weight of pressure and noise that's been relieved. And here's what I know for entrepreneurs: when we get that background noise, that weight you've been carrying around, that pressure on your shoulders, when that starts to dissipate, creativity goes through the roof. And the ability to check in on the business goes through the roof. And here's what's crazy. Even for those of you who don't believe you can, your ability to build relationships with the people around you completely transforms. Have you felt any of that, Lars?
Yeah. And just realizing, and some of this is just hearing you talk through the podcast as well. Nobody really teaches like this transformational leadership. I mean, I'm like 13 years into building businesses, and nobody's really taught it to me, and how we undercut our people with this transactional, like give them a bone, they go eat the bone, they come back for another bone. And that's sort of been my style for a long, long time. And even with the other system we ran, it was the same way. Like I had all the bones and you had to come to me for them. And I don't know if that just made me feel good or, so just knowing that, the next step for me is, it's really that 3 to 10, even though we're, 2.3, it's really acting like that 3 to 10, acting that way before we get there, so that my team can step up and fill the gaps.
I love that. Julie or Adi, do you have something you want to contribute?
Yeah. I mean, I talked about one that was the absolute biggest realization. It happened before I started here. It happened when I got exposed to your stuff, but letting go of that notion that I'm the only one who can.
Yeah.
Just that in general allowed me. I mean, that was so suffocating. I held on to it like it was special, but it was actually just suffocating. It was, if I'm the only one that can do it, then how much of this am I going to be able to do, and where are we going to be able to go? So that was a big one. And then another one, and I'll be perfectly honest, I'm getting better at this. I'm not quite there yet, but is stopping micromanaging. Just it actually just happened a little bit this morning because I'm still paying attention to this stuff, but I'm not going to solve it. So like I left a note to our team on customer service because they're trying to implement a customer service like a ticketing thing. And instead of my input was like, it was 6 o'clock in the morning. I was waking up. I woke up to work out. That's why I woke up that early, so I could get in before this. But I saw a customer service thing that hadn't been answered from yesterday. And the natural me wants to go in and answer the ticket. It doesn't matter that I've never met this person and I have no reason answering their customer service ticket because we have a customer service rep. It doesn't matter. Like my inclination is I got to answer this. What I did instead, and I learned it through these processes, is I left a note for a customer service person. And then I jumped off to get to the huddle, even though we were in the middle of this, because that was a critical issue for me. And I said, hey, we want to solve all tickets within a day. I'm not going to go solve it for you guys, but we have to put a process in place to make. So that was huge for me. Maddie, who's my EA, is so much better at managing people than I am, because I'm just that thing where nothing seems like a win in my head. Unfortunately, it also translates to the people under me. Mm-hmm. I don't, unless it's like a home run, I don't count it as a win. And that makes everybody else feel really bad about the work they do with me. So offloading that to somebody else means I just get to participate in wins, and it's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome, Adi. And that whole, that bar that we set for ourselves that's so high. I know this sounds crazy, so crazy. Like if somebody told me this when I was in my 20s, I would have just left the room and like completely discounted any advice I was getting. So I'm saying that up front. But here's what's interesting. The more we lower the bar to what we consider a win, the more we actually win. And keeping that bar so high that you keep banging your head into it is not really helping you. And it's not helping your team. Like you lower it so far, this is what I tell my coaching team. We have to lower this bar so far that our clients coming in, our members coming in that are stressed and have so much going on and they're frustrated and like we know how they're coming to us. We need a bar they can trip on. Like we need them to trip over it, not have to like do anything else, just trip over it. And then we'll give them the next one and the next one.
Can I say something?
That bar. Yeah, sure.
Because what you just said, translate. I've always had that mentality about the work that I do. It's the barrier to entry into getting help from me should be so low you can literally stumble onto it. But weirdly, I didn't treat my team that way, right? And so that's where the disconnect really happened. Is I was like, okay, well, we need to make it really easy for them, but I'm going to make it really, really hard for you to make it easy for them. And that it just honestly, if I would have found you 4 years ago, before the company I had before this collapsed, we were already at like a $3 million run rate. I just had no idea how to run a company, and it got too big and it just collapsed on itself. And but I had no systems, so you live and learn, right?
Glad you're here, brother. Julie, did you want to share? I want to close with you. Like, what have you given up? What have you moved on from that you didn't think you could?
Yeah, so I made it my mission when we built processes to not ever have to log into Process Street. So I got the team to build out all the processes without me actually having a login.
That is amazing.
Which is so hard to do. It's so hard to do, but they own it. I don't have to be involved at all. So I'm really trying. I hear your voice all the time. Correct the process, not the person. Correct the process, not the person. So I'm always asking, okay, well, is there somewhere in the process where we should have addressed this? And I don't know. Like, I can't say this should be in the process because I don't actually know what they've built. So I always have to ask. And yeah, it's been really, really good. And I'm still surprised that I haven't felt the need to go in there and meddle. But it's been a really, really good thing that I did that, because my team has full ownership of the processes and they're way better than if I had been involved in building them. So,
God, what a great insight. Like, I want to just like translate a little bit more of that for everybody. When you let people, so what we're worried about as entrepreneurs is the outcome, right, Julie? It's the outcome. It's like, what is at the end of this process? Mm-hmm. Here's what happens to all entrepreneurs. We treat everything equally important. So we treat the how you got there just as important as did you get there? And the reality is, in most cases, the how you got there is not as significant as whether the goal was actually achieved. And so in this case, what we have here is an illustration of a CEO running a business, growing like crazy, succeeding like huge success here, and literally not even paying attention to the process, focusing on outcomes, clear outcomes, coaching success. You can hear there's coaching, and then getting leverage results. So even if you don't have a login to the process system, you can do this. Julie, that's super insightful. Thank you for being here. I just want to thank all four of you. I love these panels. Like I don't know if you noticed, but I end up taking notes every time we're on one of these panels because it's so insightful. Julie, thank you. Lars, amazing. Adi, so awesome to have you on this panel. Megan, of course, I love every time I get to listen to you talk. And to listen to you speak. So for everybody, they are not, like I said, not public speakers. These are our members. Can we do a quick unmute round of applause for 10 seconds? Yay. Here. There we go.
Thank you.
I wanted to let that panel go on and on and on. I can listen to our members all day. There's just something about entrepreneurs, especially these, that are willing to give all of it away, willing to share what's really going on, willing to be transparent and vulnerable and real. And that's really how our whole membership is. And if you're an entrepreneur navigating this market and growing a business, you don't have to do it alone. In fact, you shouldn't. Being part of a community is an incredible, life-changing choice. We have a community exactly like that on Facebook. It's called the Charfen Community, and I would love to have you join. If you go to Facebook, just look up my last name, community, and answer a couple questions for my team. We'll get you added, and it's where we put some of our best content. I'll see you in the Charfen Community on Facebook.